The nationalities of the arbitrators is also reflects the nationalities of the investors, I should say. So you have a very large percentage representing Europe and Central Asia, also here. When it comes to the appointment process, the parties appoint their respective arbitrator and the SEC will appoint the chair. But I think it's important to note that we have seen more and more recently that the parties take full control of the entire tribunal. So it is not uncommon that the government and the investor will actually agree on a specific procedure on the appointment of the chair after the dispute has arisen. And I think this is a good thing, because then you will have a strong buy-in from the parties in the process from the very outset. So this is something that I think we will see more of in the future. This is a crash course in SEC investor-state arbitration. I should point your direction to a report that we have with many more details on how it works in Stockholm. And this is a report that is available on the SEC website, where sort of all of the investor-state disputes in Stockholm and the facts, how much does it cost, how long does it take, and all that. And I think it's important that we as institutions, as we go forward with investor-state arbitration, that we contribute our experience, in particular in Working Group 3 at the ANCITRAL, in the reform process. So all the experience that is out there represented by both institutions, practitioners and governments can be fed into the process. So we will ensure that arbitration, including investment arbitration, will continue to be that glue in the machinery, or that oil in the machinery, I should say, for continued economic development, international trade, and in the end, I am convinced, peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Arlette. You spent the time allocated to you. Thank you so much. So now we are coming back to Africa, and we are lucky to have Shola. As you may know, Nigeria is one of the giants in Africa, so there is a lot of investment going on there. So Shola will share some insight about the development of investment arbitration in Nigeria. Shola is not part of an arbitral institution. She's representing the Nigerian branch of the CNUDCI, which is the Chartered Institution. No, so I'm wrong. So I will let Shola introduce herself. Thank you, Shola. You have 10 minutes.
Good afternoon, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to thank Dr. Gaste and the APPA for the opportunity to be here to share with you about investment arbitration. I would like to say, first of all, that I stand here as the Chief Executive Officer and the Registrar for the Nigerian Institute of Arbitrators. My institute is the premier arbitration institute in sub-Saharan Africa, over 40 years last year. And we have over 5,000 members across all professions in Nigeria. But first of all, let me say that we have gathered together today for this conference to talk about investment arbitration on OHADA. But all I hear so far, I've heard a lot from the Secretary General for the OHADA that has really captured my fancy and got me thinking about a lot of things. I believe that it's good for us to come and say the nice things, but really we have a problem. And we need to begin to look inward. I'm going to be discussing Nigeria's position in the respect of investment disputes. I will look at the challenges that are peculiar to Nigeria, but also to African countries. And I want to propose some solutions from within, from one of our examples of what we're currently facing. I believe that this is a call, an urgent call, and an awakening for us that the African arbitral community needs to now begin to face the daunting state investors' issues that are confronting us. For instance, if you are aware, Nigeria presently is battling with one case that will wipe out our entire budget for the year if we have to pay. And that's the NRD matter against the federal government of Nigeria. I'm not going to spend time talking about background and all of that, but I'm just going to say that in recent times, investors have grown very assertive about arbitrations. We all know why a lot of the APIs, policy, treaties were signed. Why did we sign them, and why was it that investors were very interested in it? Because it gives them certain protections that we all are aware of. But at this stage, they are now so very assertive about it, and they have begun to apply dispute resolution provisions in these treaties to enforce these obligations against host states. And like you know, this involves a lot. In Nigeria, we are a signatory to the International Center for Settlement and Investment Dispute, the IC. We signed it since 1965. In fact, I believe we're one of the first to sign it. So we have IC and ad hoc arbitration as two ways in which dispute that involve the federal government of Nigeria and the state of Nigeria is settled. We have ratified IC. But presently, there is a big issue for us, and the issue is how do we, as Nigeria and as Africa, begin to play a major role when we talk about investment dispute. Nigeria, yes, is one of the largest trading partners in Sub-Saharan Africa. We have high level of petroleum exports, and also investors would like to come to invest in Nigeria. I believe there are reasons why we have a lot when it comes to investment arbitration, and the fact that we are the most populous black nation in the world. So the main issues that we see that have become a major challenge for us is the issue of the laws, the issue of the issue of why foreign investors would not want to come to Nigeria. We talk about environment, enabling environment, legal framework, and so many other things were raised. But I would like to say that it is not sufficient for investors to want to do business in Africa, and especially in Nigeria, and not want to resolve disputes in the African continent. Yes, we know that there are issues in some of our countries. As I sat in the hall, I began to have some conversations with one or two persons here, and I found out that the challenges that faces us, not only in my country, Nigeria, but across West Africa and African continent, are the same. Yes. I believe that collectively we can deal with these challenges if we look at a means of ensuring that governments of the day, our governments, to put on policies that is favorable to the interest of our nation. So we need to be more nationalistic and patriotic when we begin to sign treaties and agreements of submission. And I also believe that the time has come for us also not only to do that, but also to go back and ask for a review. These, and they're not written in such a way that you cannot ask that is either is reviewed or terminated if those treaties and the BITs are not in our favor. Because the ones that always provide an opportunity for investors to decide how they can expand the clauses, expand the provisions of such laws that is inimical to our interests, we need to either terminate them or review them. And we need to begin to think about how we can have think tanks that can be part of the international conversations around investment arbitration. How we can begin to play major roles, no longer sit back and allow that modern laws and certain legal frameworks are developed for us. And all we do is just ratify them and put our signatures to them. So the time, I'm really very excited. I'm so happy for Rwanda because they have been able to deal with that issue, and they've gone one step further to say, you know what, if you come to Rwanda and negotiate, you need to abide by terms. And if you don't, well, we'll look at it again. And investors don't want that. Investors are very quick, they want you to do their business and make their profits. So we have an opportunity to lend our voices. And so I'm calling upon us as African Institute to say it is not sufficient for us to talk about ourselves as arbitrators or about arbitration in general. But we need to talk about our nations, our governments, our countries, what benefits are we getting? I'm sorry that I'm not really going through my paper right now. I'm just speaking the way I feel about investment arbitration in Nigeria and by extension in Africa. We need to begin to say, how do we come up with such a forum where we can begin to drive investment arbitration in the African continent? Last year I was privileged to have hosted a national conference, and I said at the conference that if foreign investors can do business in Africa, by extension, in my country, they should be willing to resolve disputes in my country. I was so glad when Secretary for the Stockholm Center talked about the fact that our institute or our center was over 100 years old. And she jokingly said, you know, for the number of years that Rwanda has done so many cases, they have not been able to. So it means that we will fix whatever is wrong in our continent. Please, we are asking that foreign investors begin to think about doing business here. I was discussing this morning with the Secretary General for the Citra, and I said to myself, and I said to her, one major problem, one major challenge that I see we are going to face in investment arbitration has to be the recent move towards Asia. A lot of African countries, and including my country, Nigeria, are beginning to sign, BITs, research combinations that doesn't really add value to Africa. They come in, they bring in the manpower, the human power, they bring in the drugs, they bring in, the facilities and everything. By the time you look at such BITs, there's really nothing it is that we have gained from it as a nation. So those kind of investments are things we need to look at. Yes, we need to build arbitral specialization. It's key. If we are going to begin to play at the international forum, we need to build the necessary specialization and skills so that they can also what? Invite us. More than just build the skills, we need to ensure that the necessary infrastructure are in place. It goes beyond just having a center. It goes beyond just having, the rules working. But we must ensure that there's transparency and zero corruption. Because one of the major problems that we have is a level of corruption in this part of the world. So we need to begin to think about how do we address it amongst ourselves and also externally. If I may conclude, I need to say that we need to get a seat at the table in Nigeria and other African countries. We should acquire greater control over the composition of tribunals. We need to negotiate and specify investment treaties, necessary criteria in terms of experience or qualification. Just recently, we had an international investment arbitration against Nigeria where major arbitrators on that panel were from the same country that one of the parties was. That alone speaks volume. I also want to say that we need to rethink our love for quick acceptance of investment treaty. Not everything that looks like gold is actually gold. We need to dig deep and begin to ask questions. Come up with a critical and futuristic assessment of the impact and value to our economy and also the protection of our citizens' rights. We should never begin to sign arbitration, investment arbitration agreements or treaties without ensuring that the rights of our citizens are protected. No longer will Africa be the dumping ground for treaties or for businesses that really will not measure up anywhere in the world. So the future, for me, I see a bright future for us, and I hope that we will all go back and begin to think about how do we get our governments to review and actually terminate onerous treaties. And we also have to begin to explore, when I talked about terminating treaties, and it was like a new thing, it's not a new thing, because already some countries are doing it. So it is a wake-up call for us in this part of Africa, West Africa particularly, to say, you know what, BITs, multilateral treaties, whatever agreement is that is not in our favor, we want terminated. And if they are such that we can review them, we want them reviewed. I want to first of all now say, I also would like to thank the APPN for its commitment in promoting arbitration in Africa. I believe that this effort that they have started is a good one, and the Nigerian Institution of Arbitrators is committed to partner with the APPN to drive the recognition of African countries as a global hub for investment arbitration. I'm happy about what's going on in Rwanda, but the truth of the matter is that not every one of us will be able to have the kind of enabling environment that Rwanda has in the next 5 years. Not every African country will go to do that. But before we get to that level, we must call the international arbitration community and investors to order to say it is no longer business as usual. They need to begin to look inward. I know as an arbitrator, our primary responsibility is to serve as adjudicators. However, we must not shy away from addressing our governments and also provide necessary guidance to ensure that the protection of our national and regional interests at every opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Shola, for your call to awareness. Nous revenons un peu dans l'espace OHADA après ce panorama et nous allons inviter